The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was buzzing with activity as representatives from across the known universe gathered for another momentous meeting. Among them was the humble human ambassador, Alexander Steele, who sat quietly and observed the alien delegates exchange animated discussions. Alexander knew that his people, the humans from the faraway planet called Earth, were considered nothing more than primitive and insignificant by the advanced alien civilizations that made up the Galactic Council. For years, the humans had been trying to gain a seat at the table, to have their voices heard and their interests represented. But the council members had always dismissed humanity's requests, viewing them as a species unworthy of joining their esteemed ranks. Today, however, was different. Alexander had been instructed by his superiors back on Earth to make a bold statement and demand that the council take the humans seriously. He took a deep breath and rose from his seat, waiting patiently for the chatter to subside before speaking. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Alexander began, his voice calm and measured. I come before you today to once again request that our planet, Earth, be granted full membership in this prestigious assembly. We believe that humanity has much to offer the Council, and we are eager to contribute to the betterment of our shared galaxy. The alien delegates erupted in laughter, their mocking jeers echoing throughout the chamber. A tall, reptilian-like creature named Psyloph, who represented the Kragoth Empire, stood up and sneered at the human ambassador. You must be joking, human, Psyloph hissed, his scaly skin glistening under the bright lights. Your people are barely out of the Dark Ages, still struggling with petty conflicts and primitive technology. What possible value could you add to the Galactic Council? The other delegates nodded in agreement, their expressions ranging from amusement to outright disdain. Alexander felt his cheeks flush with embarrassment, but he refused to back down. He had been prepared for this reaction, and he was determined to make his people's case, no matter how difficult it might be. I assure you, Psyloph, that humanity has made great strides in recent years, Alexander said, his voice unwavering. Our scientific and technological advancements rival that of many of the species represented here. We have developed advanced forms of space travel, communication, and even military capabilities that... Before he could finish his sentence, the chamber erupted in laughter once again. Psyloph raised a clawed hand, silencing the other delegates with a dismissive wave. Military capabilities, the Kragoth representative scoffed. Pathetic human, your pitiful weapons and ships are no match for the superior technology of the Galactic Council. Your people are still fighting with primitive firearms and antiquated spacecraft. How dare you even suggest that you could stand against the might of our fleets? The other delegates joined in the laughter, their jeers and taunts filling the air. Alexander felt his heart sink, but he refused to back down. He had come too far to let the arrogance of the Galactic Council deter him. I assure you, Psyloph, that you and your fellow council members are gravely mistaken, Alexander said, his voice calm and steady. Humanity has been developing advanced military technology in secret, technology that will shock and awe you all. I implore you to reconsider your dismissive attitude towards us, for we are far more capable than you realize. The Kragoth representative let out a derisive laugh, shaking his head in disbelief. Enough of this nonsense, Psyloph growled. The Galactic Council has spoken, human. Your request for membership has been denied, and your pathetic claims of military might are nothing more than the desperate fantasies of a primitive species. Now, be gone from our presence, and do not return until you have something worthwhile to offer. With those words, the Galactic Council meeting was adjourned, leaving the human ambassador to ponder his next move. As he made his way back to his ship, Alexander couldn't help but feel a growing sense of determination. He knew that the Galactic Council had vastly underestimated the capabilities of humanity, and he was determined to prove them wrong, even if it meant unleashing the full power of the human military. Back on Earth, the human leaders gathered in a secret underground facility, their expressions grim as they discussed the aftermath of the Galactic Council meeting. Those arrogant aliens think they can just dismiss us like that. General Sarah Wilkins, the commander of the Earth's military forces, slammed her fist on the table, her eyes blazing with fury. After all the work we've put into developing our advanced technologies, they have the audacity to mock us. President William Archer, the elected leader of the United Nations, raised a calming hand. I understand your frustration, General, but we must remain calm and strategic in our approach. The Galactic Council has underestimated us, and that will be their downfall. He turned to the group of top scientists and engineers gathered around the table. Have you completed the final preparations for our secret weapon? Dr. Emily Novak, the head of the research and development team, nodded enthusiastically. Yes, Mr. President. The Dreadnought is ready for deployment. All systems are fully operational, and the crew is standing by. The Dreadnought was humanity's ace in the hole, a massive, heavily armed spacecraft that had been in development for years, hidden from the prying eyes of the Galactic Council. Its advanced technologies, including powerful energy weapons, impenetrable shields, and state-of-the-art propulsion systems, were light years ahead of anything the alien civilizations had ever seen. Excellent, President Archer said, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Then it's time to show the Galactic Council what humanity is truly capable of. General Wilkins leaned forward, her expression grim. We'll need to tread carefully, Mr. President. The Galactic Council may view the Dreadnought as an act of aggression, and they could retaliate with overwhelming force. We must be prepared for the possibility of an all-out war. The President nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. I understand the risks, General, but we can no longer afford to be passive. The time has come for humanity to assert its rightful place in the galaxy. If the Galactic Council refuses to listen to reason, then we will have no choice but to demonstrate our power. With a decisive nod, the leaders of Earth began to formulate their plan. The Dreadnought would be dispatched to the Galactic Council's headquarters, where it would serve as a powerful bargaining chip. If the aliens refused to grant humanity a seat at the table, then they would be shown the full extent of human military might. In the days that followed, the Dreadnought set out on its historic journey, its massive frame cutting through the vastness of space with unparalleled speed and grace. The crew, handpicked from the best and brightest of Earth's military and scientific communities, were filled with a sense of both excitement and trepidation. This is it, people, Captain James Donovan, the commanding officer of the Dreadnought, addressed his crew as they neared their destination. We've been training for this moment for years, and now it's time to show the Galactic Council what we're made of. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for the future of humanity. Let's make our planet proud. The crew responded with a roar of determination, their voices echoing through the vast, technologically advanced corridors of the Dreadnought. As the massive ship approached the Galactic Council's headquarters, a sense of anticipation and trepidation hung in the air. Back on Earth, the human leaders watched the events unfold with bated breath, their eyes glued to the video feed from the Dreadnought. They knew that this moment would be a turning point in the history of humanity, one that could either cement their place in the galactic community or plunge them into a devastating conflict. As the Dreadnought drew closer, the Galactic Council members gathered once again, their expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension. They had no idea what the humans were about to unleash, and for the first time, a sliver of doubt crept into their collective consciousness. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was once again filled with the chatter of the alien delegates as they gathered for another meeting. This time, however, the atmosphere was noticeably more tense and uncertain. Just days earlier, the human ambassador, Alexander Steele, had made a bold demand for Earth's inclusion in the prestigious assembly, only to be met with derision and mockery from the council members. But now, rumors were circulating that the humans had something up their sleeve, a secret weapon that could potentially challenge the might of the Galactic Council. As the meeting commenced, Alexander Steele stepped forward, his posture confident and his expression resolute. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice carrying a hint of authority. "I have requested this meeting to present you with a matter of the utmost importance." The alien delegates exchanged cautious glances, their earlier arrogance now replaced by a palpable sense of unease. "As you may recall, during our last gathering, I made a bold claim about the military capabilities of my people," Alexander continued. "I stated that humanity has developed advanced technologies that would shock and awe you all. Today, I am here to prove that claim." With a nod, the human ambassador gestured towards the massive doors at the far end of the chamber. Moments later, they swung open, and a collective gasp rippled through the gathered aliens. Gliding effortlessly into the chamber was a colossal vessel, its sleek, angular design and shimmering energy shields unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. The Dreadnought, humanity's secret weapon, had arrived. Xyloth, the Kragoth representative who had so brazenly mocked the humans, rose from his seat, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fear. "What is the meaning of this, human?" he demanded, his voice wavering slightly. "How dare you bring this monstrosity into our sacred chamber?" Alexander Steele couldn't help but smile at the alien's reaction. "Monstrosity," he echoed, his tone dripping with amusement. "On the contrary, Xyloth, this is the pinnacle of human engineering and innovation. Meet the Dreadnought, our most advanced and powerful warship." The Dreadnought slowly maneuvered itself to the center of the chamber, its towering presence casting an imposing shadow over the gathered aliens. The council members stared at the ship in stunned silence, their previous arrogance and confidence replaced by a palpable sense of unease. "As you can see, the Dreadnought is far more than just a pitiful human spacecraft," Alexander said, his voice laced with a hint of triumph. "It is equipped with the most advanced weapons, shielding, and propulsion systems in the known galaxy. And I assure you, this is just the beginning of what humanity is capable of." Xyloth opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The other council members remained equally speechless, their eyes transfixed on the magnificent vessel before them. After a long, tense silence, President Archer's voice crackled over the communication systems, his image projected onto a massive holographic display. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," the human leader began, his expression stern, "I hope this demonstration has shown you that we are not to be underestimated. Humanity is ready to take its rightful place among the stars, and we are willing to negotiate the terms of our inclusion in this council." The alien delegates exchanged heated whispers, their expressions a mixture of disbelief, fear, and begrudging respect. Xyloth, the Kragoth representative, rose once again, his scales glistening under the bright lights of the chamber. This is an outrage," he stammered, his clawed hands trembling. "You cannot simply barge in here and demand a seat at our table. The Galactic Council has stood for millennia, and we will not bow to the whims of a primitive species." Before Xyloth could continue his tirade, Alexander Steele raised a hand, silencing him. "I understand your concerns, Xyloth," the human ambassador said, his voice calm and measured. "But I assure you, the time has come for humanity to take its rightful place among the stars. We are no longer the primitive species you once dismissed. We have grown, we have evolved, and we are ready to contribute to the betterment of the galaxy." The tension in the chamber was palpable as the Galactic Council members debated the implications of this unprecedented challenge to their authority. The future of humanity and the balance of power in the galaxy hung in the balance, and the Council knew that they could no longer ignore the growing strength of the human race. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with a tense silence as the alien delegates grappled with the implications of the humans' bold move. The presence of the Dreadnought, a vessel of unparalleled power and sophistication, had shaken the very foundations of their long-standing authority. Xyloth, the Kragoth representative, was the first to break the silence, his scales rippling with a mixture of fear and indignation. "This is an outrage," he thundered, his clawed hands clenched into fists. You cannot simply waltz in here with your oversized toy and demand a seat at our table. The Galactic Council has endured for millennia, and we will not be cowed by the antics of a primitive species. Alexander Steele, the human ambassador, remained calm and collected, unfazed by the alien's outburst. Primitive, he echoed, a small smile playing on his lips. Psylocke, I believe you and your fellow council members have vastly underestimated the capabilities of humanity. The Dreadnought is merely a taste of what we are capable of. If you truly wish to test our strength, then I challenge you to do so. The other delegates murmured in agreement, their expressions a mix of curiosity and trepidation. Xyloth glared at the human, his eyes narrowed to slits. Very well, human, he hissed. If you are so confident in your vessel's abilities, then let us put it to the test. I propose a demonstration of its power, here and now, in the presence of the Galactic Council. Alexander nodded, his gaze unwavering. Excellent. And what would you have us demonstrate, Xyloth? The Kragoth representative gestured towards the massive viewports that lined the chamber, his lips curling into a sinister grin. Destroy the fleet of ships that are currently docked outside our headquarters, he demanded. If your Dreadnought can accomplish that feat, then we will be forced to reconsider your request for membership. The human ambassador's eyes narrowed, but he remained resolute. Very well, Xyloth. Consider it done. With a nod, Alexander Steele turned to the Dreadnought's crew, relaying the Galactic Council's challenge. Within moments, the massive warship sprang into action, its powerful engines roaring to life as it maneuvered towards the docked alien vessels. The council members watched in stunned silence as the Dreadnought's advanced weapon systems began to power up, their energy signatures crackling with raw power. Xyloth, his earlier bravado fading, gripped the edge of his seat, his eyes fixed on the unfolding spectacle. Without warning, the Dreadnought unleashed a barrage of devastating energy beams, each one striking its target with pinpoint accuracy. The alien ships, caught off guard and utterly unprepared, disintegrated one by one, their hulls crumbling under the relentless onslaught. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in a stunned silence, the delegates staring in disbelief as the Dreadnought effortlessly decimated the once formidable fleet. Xyloth, his scales paling with each passing moment, could only gape in horror at the display of power. After the last of the alien ships had been reduced to scattered debris, the Dreadnought returned to its position at the center of the chamber, its towering presence a stark reminder of humanity's technological superiority. Alexander Steele, his arms crossed over his chest, regarded the shell-shocked council members with a measured gaze. I believe we have demonstrated the capabilities of our Dreadnought, he said, his voice calm and unwavering. Now, I believe it is time for you to reconsider your stance on humanity's membership in the Galactic Council. The alien delegates exchanged frantic whispers, their expressions a mix of fear, awe, and begrudging respect. Xyloth, his earlier bravado shattered, rose on trembling legs, his eyes fixed on the human ambassador. This is an outrage, he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. You cannot simply barge in here and expect us to welcome you with open arms. The Galactic Council has stood for millennia, and we will not bow to the whims of a... Before he could finish, a tall, reptilian-like creature named Zira, the representative from the Voltarian Empire, raised a clawed hand, silencing the Kragoth. Enough, Xyloth, she said, her voice firm and authoritative. It is clear that we have grossly underestimated the humans. Their technological prowess is undeniable, and their claim for membership in the Galactic Council can no longer be ignored. The other delegates murmured in agreement, their expressions a mix of reluctance and resignation. Zara turned to Alexander Steele, her gaze steadfast. Human Ambassador, on behalf of the Galactic Council, we agree to consider your request for membership. However, we will need time to discuss the terms and conditions of your inclusion. This is a matter of utmost importance, and we cannot afford to rush into a decision. Alexander nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Understood, Zara. We will await your decision with patience and respect." As the Galactic Council adjourned, the human ambassador couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. The Dreadnought had proven to be the decisive factor, shattering the Council's perception of human capabilities and forcing them to reckon with the growing power of the human race. The Galactic Council chamber was in disarray after the stunning display of power by the humans' Dreadnought. The alien delegates, once so confident in their technological superiority, were now grappling with the implications of this unexpected turn of events. Zira, the Voltarian representative, had taken charge of the proceedings, calling for a recess so that the council members could deliberate in private. "This is an unprecedented situation," she said, her voice grave. "The humans have clearly developed capabilities that we never anticipated, and their demand for membership can no longer be ignored." Xyloth, the Kragoth representative, paced the floor, his scales glistening with a mixture of fear and resentment. "Ignored," he spat. "We should never have allowed them to set foot in this chamber, let alone consider their request. They are a primitive, upstart species, and we cannot simply reward their insolence with a seat at our table." The other delegates murmured in agreement, their expressions a mix of unease and apprehension. Zara raised a clawed hand, silencing the others. "I understand your concerns, Xyloth, but we must consider the broader implications of our actions. The humans have demonstrated a level of technological advancement that we cannot simply dismiss. If we refuse their request, they may very well retaliate, and the consequences could be catastrophic." Xyloth opened his mouth to protest, but Zira cut him off with a stern look. "We must also consider the potential benefits of having the humans as part of the Galactic Council," she continued. "Their scientific and technological prowess could be invaluable in addressing the challenges we face, from resource scarcity to interstellar conflicts. Ignoring them could put us at a significant disadvantage in the long run." The other delegates exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions reflecting the weight of the decision before them. "So, what are you suggesting, Zira?" asked Zara, the Orion representative. "That we simply capitulate to their demands and grant them full membership." Zira shook her head. "No, not full membership. We must be cautious and take a more measured approach. Perhaps we could offer them a limited seat on the council, with strict guidelines and restrictions on their involvement." Xyloth snorted in derision. "Restrictions? The humans have already demonstrated that they possess the power to overwhelm us. What makes you think they will accept such terms?" Zira fixed the Kragoth representative with a steady gaze. "Because we have no other choice. Xyloth, we must find a way to accommodate the humans without compromising the integrity of the Galactic Council. If we refuse them outright, we risk provoking a conflict that none of us can afford to lose." The delegates fell silent, the weight of the decision before them palpable in the air. They knew that whatever course of action they chose, it would have far-reaching consequences for the future of the galaxy. As the discussions continued, the human ambassador, Alexander Steele, waited patiently outside the chamber, his expression calm and resolute. He knew that the Galactic Council was facing a monumental decision, one that would shape the course of humanity's place in the stars. Back on Earth, the leaders of the human civilization followed the events with bated breath. President Archer and General Wilkins had kept a tight rein on the Dreadnought's deployment, aware that a misstep could potentially lead to an all-out galactic war. "They're going to have to take us seriously now," General Wilkins said, her eyes fixed on the video feed from the Dreadnought. "The Galactic Council has no choice but to recognize our power and our right to be part of their esteemed assembly." President Archer nodded, his expression pensive. "I agree, Sarah. But we must be cautious. The aliens may try to impose strict conditions on our membership, and we'll have to carefully navigate those waters to ensure that humanity's interests are protected." The general clenched her fist, her knuckles turning white. "If they try to undermine us or limit our involvement, we'll show them the full extent of our military might. The Dreadnought is just the beginning. We have other advanced technologies that could easily turn the tide of any conflict. The president raised a hand, his expression stern. Easy, Sarah. We can't afford to be reckless. We've come this far by playing a careful game, and we'll need to continue that approach if we want to secure our place in the Galactic Council. General Wilkins sighed, her shoulders sagging slightly. I know, William. I just can't stand the thought of those arrogant aliens trying to put us in a box. Humanity has finally found its voice in the galaxy, and we won't back down without a fight. The two leaders exchanged a meaningful look, both of them aware that the fate of humanity now hung in the balance. The Galactic Council's deliberations had been long and arduous, with the delegates debating the fate of humanity's request for membership with great fervor. The shockwaves from the Dreadnought's demonstration of power had shaken the very foundations of the esteemed assembly, forcing them to confront the reality that the once dismissed human race had emerged as a formidable player on the galactic stage. As the discussions dragged on, the human ambassador, Alexander Steele, waited patiently outside the chamber, his expression calm and resolute. He knew that the council was facing a monumental decision, one that would shape the course of humanity's future in the stars. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the doors to the chamber swung open, and Zira, the Voltarian representative, stepped forward. "Human ambassador," she began, her voice measured and steady. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding your request for membership." Alexander nodded, his heart racing with anticipation. "I am listening, Zira." The Voltarian delegate took a deep breath before continuing. "After much debate and deliberation, we have agreed to grant humanity a limited seat on the Galactic Council." Alexander felt a surge of hope, but before he could speak, Zira raised a clawed hand, silencing him. "However," she continued, "this seat will come with strict conditions and limitations. We cannot simply welcome you into our ranks without safeguards to protect the integrity of the Council." The human ambassador's expression hardened, but he remained silent, allowing Zira to continue. "First and foremost, your involvement in the Council's affairs will be restricted to specific areas, such as scientific and technological cooperation. You will have no direct say in matters of military strategy or interstellar politics." Siloth, the Kragoth representative, stepped forward, his scales glistening with a hint of triumph. "Secondly," he hissed, "your military capabilities, including the Dreadnought, will be subject to constant monitoring and oversight. We will not allow you to simply flaunt your power and disrupt the balance of the galaxy." Alexander felt his jaw tighten, but he forced himself to remain calm. "And what of our demand for equal representation and the right to contribute to the Council's decision-making process?" Zira shook her head, her expression apologetic. "I'm afraid we cannot grant you that level of influence at this time. The Galactic Council has stood for millennia, and we cannot simply append our entire system of governance to accommodate a single, newly emergent species." The human ambassador's eyes narrowed, but he knew that pushing too hard could jeopardize the fragile agreement. "I understand the Council's concerns, but I must remind you that humanity has capabilities that you have only begun to understand. We are not a species to be taken lightly." Siloth let out a derisive snort. "Oh, we understand your capabilities all too well, human. That is precisely why we are imposing these restrictions. We will not allow you to upset the delicate balance of power in the galaxy." Alexander took a deep breath, his mind racing as he weighed the Council's offer. On the one hand, it was a significant step forward, granting humanity a seat at the table and the opportunity to contribute to the betterment of the galaxy. On the other hand, the limitations and restrictions were far from ideal, and he knew that his superiors back on Earth would be hesitant to accept such terms. "The Galactic Council has made its decision," Zira said, her voice breaking the tense silence. "We hope that you and your people will see the wisdom in our offer, and that together we can forge a new era of cooperation and mutual understanding." Alexander nodded, his expression unreadable. "I will convey the Council's decision to my superiors, Zira. They will undoubtedly have their own thoughts and concerns to share. With a final nod, the Voltarian representative and the rest of the council members retreated back into the chamber, leaving the human ambassador to ponder the implications of their offer. As Alexander made his way back to his ship, he couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. On one hand, he was elated that humanity had finally gained a foothold in the Galactic Council, a recognition of their growing power and influence. But the restrictions and limitations imposed by the Council left a bitter taste in his mouth, and he knew that convincing his superiors to accept such terms would be a monumental challenge. Back on Earth, President Archer and General Wilkins waited anxiously for Alexander's return, their eyes fixed on the communication channels. They knew that the fate of humanity's future in the galaxy now hung in the balance, and they were prepared to fight tooth and nail to ensure that their people's interests were protected. The tension in the Galactic Council chamber was palpable as the delegates debated the terms of humanity's inclusion in the prestigious assembly. The human ambassador, Alexander Steele, had relayed the Council's offer to his superiors back on Earth, and the response had been swift and decisive. President Archer and General Wilkins had made it clear that they were not willing to accept the strict limitations and restrictions the Council had proposed. They argued that humanity's technological and military capabilities were far too advanced to be constrained in such a way, and they demanded a seat at the table with equal rights and representation. "We've come too far to be relegated to the status of second-class citizens in the Galactic Council," General Wilkins had stated emphatically during a tense video conference with the council members. "Humanity has proven its worth, and we will not be content with a mere symbolic presence in your assembly." Xyloth, the Kraggoth representative, had bristled at the human's defiant tone, his scales rippling with barely contained anger. "You dare to demand such concessions?" he had hissed. "The Galactic Council has existed for millennia, and we will not simply bow to the whims of a newly emerged species, no matter how impressive your technological capabilities may be." Zura, the Voltarian delegate, had raised a clawed hand, silencing the Kraggoth representative. "We understand your position, General Wilkins. However, you must understand that the inclusion of a new member in the Galactic Council is a matter of grave importance, one that cannot be rushed or taken lightly." President Archer had leaned forward, his expression resolute. "Then we will wait, Zyra. But I assure you, the patience of the human race has its limits. We have waited long enough to be recognized as equals in the galactic community, and we are prepared to take drastic measures if necessary." The Galactic Council members had exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier confidence shaken by the human's unwavering stance. Now, as the delegates gathered once again, the air was thick with tension and uncertainty. Zira stepped forward, her expression grave. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice steady, "we have carefully considered the humans' demands and the implications of their inclusion in our assembly." Tyloff shifted in his seat, his eyes narrowed to slits. "And have you reached a decision?" Zira nodded, her gaze sweeping across the chamber. "After much deliberation, we have decided to grant humanity a full seat on the Galactic Council, with the same rights and responsibilities as the other member species." The announcement was met with a chorus of protests and dissenting murmurs from the other delegates. Siloth leaped to his feet, his clawed hands clenched into fists. "This is an outrage," he bellowed. "You cannot simply capitulate to the demands of these upstart humans. They have not earned the right to sit among us as equals." Zera raised a hand, silencing the Kraggoth representative. "I understand your concerns, Siloth, but we cannot ignore the reality of the situation. The humans have demonstrated a level of technological and military prowess that we cannot afford to dismiss. Denying them full membership would only serve to antagonize them and risk provoking a conflict that none of us can afford." The other delegates exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions a mix of reluctance and resignation. Thyloth, his face twisted in a mask of fury, slumped back into his seat, his talons drumming against the armrest. "Very well," he growled, But I want it on record that I vehemently oppose this decision. The Kragoth Empire will not be held responsible for any consequences that may arise from this reckless action." Zira nodded, her expression solemn. "Duly noted, Xylov. The Galactic Council has spoken, and humanity's request for full membership has been granted." As the delegates began to file out of the chamber, Alexander Steele waited patiently, his expression unreadable. He knew that the road ahead would not be an easy one, as the human race navigated the complex and often treacherous politics of the Galactic Council. Back on Earth, President Archer and General Wilkins received the news with a mixture of relief and apprehension. They had achieved their goal of securing humanity's place among the stars, but they also knew that the true test was yet to come. "This is only the beginning, William," General Wilkins said, her eyes narrowed. "The Galactic Council may have granted us a seat, but they will undoubtedly continue to try and undermine our influence and limit our involvement in their affairs." President Archer nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "I agree, Sarah. We must be vigilant and prepared to defend our interests at every turn. The future of humanity's place in the galaxy now hangs in the balance." As the Dreadnought prepared to depart for Earth, the human leaders knew that the battle for recognition and respect in the Galactic Council had only just begun. As the Dreadnought glided effortlessly through the vastness of space, its commanding presence a testament to the technological prowess of the human race, Alexander Steele couldn't help but feel a mixture of triumph and trepidation. The Galactic Council's decision to grant humanity a full seat at their table had been a hard-won victory, but the human ambassador knew that the real challenge lay ahead. The other council members, particularly the ever-vocal Xylov of the Kragoth Empire, had made it clear that they would not simply accept the humans as equals. "They will continue to try and undermine us, to limit our influence and restrict our involvement in the Council's affairs," Alexander murmured, his brow furrowed in thought. General Wilkins, who had accompanied the human ambassador on the return trip, nodded grimly. "I agree. The Galactic Council may have given us a seat, but they'll be watching our every move, waiting for us to slip up so they can pounce." President Archer, who had been monitoring the situation from Earth, spoke up through the ship's communication system. "That may be true, Sarah, but we can't let that deter us. The future of humanity's place in the galaxy is at stake, and we've come too far to back down now." Alexander nodded, his expression resolute. "The President is right. We've proven our worth, and now it's time to show the Galactic Council that we're ready to be full and active participants in their assembly." As the Dreadnought approached Earth, the crew could feel the palpable sense of anticipation and excitement. They knew that their return would be a momentous occasion, a symbol of humanity's growing power and influence in the galaxy. When the massive warship touched down on the surface, it was greeted by a throng of cheering crowds, waving flags and banners in celebration. President Archer and General Wilkins were at the forefront, their expressions a mix of pride and determination. "Welcome home, Ambassador Steele," the President said, shaking Alexander's hand firmly. "The people of Earth are eager to hear about your success in the Galactic Council." Alexander smiled, his eyes shining with a newfound sense of purpose. "It's been a challenging journey, Mr. President, but I'm proud to say that humanity now has a seat at the table. However, the real work is just beginning." General Wilkins stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. "We're well aware of that, Ambassador. The Galactic Council may have granted us membership, but they'll be watching our every move, looking for any opportunity to undermine our influence." President Archer raised a hand, silencing the general. "That may be true, Sarah, but we're not going to let them intimidate us. We've come too far to back down now. Humanity has a voice in the galaxy, and we're going to use it to shape the future." The crowd erupted in cheers, their enthusiasm a testament to the human spirit and the determination to forge a new path among the stars. In the days and weeks that followed, the human representatives on the Galactic Council worked tirelessly to assert their presence and influence. They participated in discussions, offered innovative solutions to pressing galactic issues, and carefully navigated the complex web of alliances and rivalries that dominated the Council's proceedings. Tyloth and his ilk continued to view the humans with suspicion and disdain, but the Voltarians and other more pragmatic council members gradually came to appreciate the unique perspective and technological prowess that the humans brought to the table. As the months passed, the Dreadnought, a symbol of humanity's power and resilience, remained a constant presence in the Galactic Council's orbit, a silent reminder of the stakes involved in the ongoing struggle for recognition and respect. Back on Earth, President Archer and General Wilkins monitored the situation with a watchful eye, ready to deploy the full might of the human military if the Galactic Council's resistance threatened to boil over into open conflict. "We've come too far to back down now," the President murmured, his gaze fixed on the distant stars. "The future of humanity's place in the galaxy hangs in the balance, and we will not let it slip through our fingers." As the Dreadnought continued its silent vigil, the human race prepared to navigate the treacherous waters of the Galactic Council, determined to carve out a place for themselves in the vast expanse of the cosmos.